The moment those nosy neighbors decide a Navy SEALs pool should double as their personal oasis, a tactical surprise is waiting to make a splash in this tale of bold revenge and setting the record straight. His corner turned, the shattered silence gave way to the babble of laughter and the slapping of water that, with a bass-heavy playlist, now transformed his usually quiet backyard into an impromptu carnival. His ex-military instincts prickled. Marcus exchanged a quick glance with Jake and Mike, whose relaxed postures of earlier had vanished. Their military training never really retired. It lived on in the subtle tension of their shoulders, the considered way they weighed up unexpected sounds. "I've got this," Marcus murmured, signaling them to hold back. As he rounded the gate, he came to a halt before a tableau of domestic chaos. The Hendersons had commandeered his pool, as if it were their personal resort. Mr. Henderson was spinning tunes from a portable speaker, while his wife sunbaked on Marcus's favorite lounger, and their 3 kids made the water their own playland. Snack wrappers blew around the deck. Inflatable pool toys floated serenely. A Bluetooth speaker thumped out some summer playlist. When Marcus cleared his throat, the music died. The silence crashed down, broken only by the soft lapping of the water in the pool and Mrs. Henderson's indrawn breath. "Mr. Thompson," she exclaimed, shock and embarrassment threading her tone. Mr. Henderson sprang to his feet, almost knocking over the speaker. We thought you weren't returning until next week." The children huddled together, wide-eyed and dripping. The youngest clutched her pool noodle like a protective talisman. Marcus's response surprised everyone. "Kids," he said softly, "why don't you grab your towels and head inside?" The family's evacuation was a masterclass in awkward movement. Towels were grabbed in record time, belongings collected in quick swoops. Mrs. Henderson's hands shook slightly as she folded their wet accessories. "Hello, Marcus," she whispered. "Hello, Mrs. Henderson," he replied evenly. After they'd gone, Mike couldn't contain himself. "That's it? No confrontation? No police?" Marcus surveyed the scene. Despite the unauthorized use, everything was meticulously returned. Furniture carefully positioned, pool toys neatly arranged. Not a single item damaged. A ghost of a smile played on his lips. Some battles, he'd learned, were won through restraint, not reaction. Marcus rolled a discarded water bottle between his fingers, studying its presence like a piece of evidence. "Interesting," he muttered, more to himself than to his friends. They brought everything: chairs, drinks, even skimmed the pool before diving in. Jake caught the subtle shift in Marcus's expression. That look-sharp, calculating was familiar to anyone who'd served with him. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even frustration. It was something else entirely. "And," Jake prompted. A trace of a smile danced at the edge of Marcus's lips. "And I'm contemplating our next move." Mike collapsed onto the couch, tugging on the beer. "You've gone soft," he proclaimed. The old Marcus would have them in handcuffs by now. Marcus pulled 3 cold beers from the refrigerator, his movements deliberate. "It's not about softness," he said. "It's about understanding." The story unfolded slowly, like a classified file being carefully declassified. David Santos, tech millionaire, former wunderkind of Santos Technologies, had a complicated history with the Hendersons. 20 years of loyalty, reduced to a single moment of corporate betrayal. Henderson was the chief of security, Marcus explained. Worked his way up from IT, gave 20 years to the company. Then, a week before the IPO, some bright boy decided to leak sensitive data. The board needed a scapegoat. Mike leaned forward. "Let me guess. Henderson took the fall?" "Exactly. He lost everything: reputation, savings, future. An NDA sealed his fate. But this wasn't a story of simple corporate backstabbing, it would seem. David Santos understood loyalty in his own way. Instead of letting Henderson disappear, he'd arranged something. A house, practically rent-free, through a shell company that looked completely legitimate on paper. "It's his way of making things right," Marcus said, peering out the window at the Henderson house, without breaking any rules. Jake raised an eyebrow. "And the pool?" Marcus smiled cryptically. Some debts cannot be paid in cash. Long shadows stretched through the evening light. A water bottle stood on the counter from lunchtime, a minor, almost irrelevant reminder of deeper, unspoken stories that glide silently beneath suburban normality. It had started with a housekeeper and a moment of watchfulness. They saw what nobody else did, Marcus explained, his fingers tracing the security camera footage. The images revealed a calculated invasion, not of physical space, but of carefully constructed trust. Mrs. Henderson, a retired HR director with an investigator's instincts, had first noticed discrepancies. A housekeeper taking one too many pictures, suspicious conversations, deployment schedules carefully mapped out. While Marcus was overseas protecting the country, the Hendersons were protecting his house. They caught a professional burglary ring, he said in a quiet voice. 12 homes marked. Mine was number 13. Jake and Mike exchanged looks. This wasn't neighborly concern. This was tactical intervention. The pool became the first chapter in a more complex arrangement. Tommy Henderson, their son, had almost drowned at the community pool. Panic attacks, therapy, a child's trauma seeking to heal private waters. First, it was controlled. Marcus pulled up the first agreement. Tuesdays and Thursdays, specific hours under parental supervision, precise bounds. But the boundaries of such, they soon found, were fluid. 18 visits last month. Odd hours. Expanding circles of strangers. What had started out as a therapeutic solution for Tommy had evolved into a whole different animal. A water club for the neighborhood, with Marcus's pool its unauthorized headquarters. Sarah, Marcus's fiancée and ex-military intelligence, had come across the full extent of their operation. A sign-up sheet, a schedule, a whole ecosystem of pool time, negotiated and managed without any direct input from Marcus himself. They're running this like a business, Marcus said, showing the text from Mr. Henderson. An invitation, a proposal to formalize the arrangement. Mike whistled low. And you're just going to let this happen? Marcus's smile was enigmatic. Let's just say I'm gathering intelligence. The security footage continued to play. Families, children, a portable speaker, coolers. An entire social network had bloomed in his backyard, cultivated by the Hendersons' quiet determination. Some invasions, they were learning, didn't require force, just audacity. The problem called for a solution that would not be confrontational nor destructive. A fine line between appreciation and need. Marcus stared out the window at the Hendersons' house, standing watch in the darkness of night. Dead and boundaries, two concepts that seldom fell into perfect alignment. We're talking about more than just a pool, he said quietly. This is about respect. Jake, always the strategist, was the first to propose a solution. Remember the embassy trick? His eyes glinted with a familiar operational cleverness. The foam solution, a non-violent deterrent that spoke volumes without uttering a word. Sarah, fresh from her intelligence work, listened carefully as Marcus explained. Non-toxic, high-expansion foam, he detailed. One pour, and the pool becomes unusable. Completely harmless, but unmistakably clear. How long? Mike asked. 8 hours of inconvenience, Jake calculated, enough to send a message without causing real damage. But Marcus was thinking bigger. What if we could extend that, he mused. 3 days of gentle but firm redirection. The plan took shape like a military operation, precise, calculated, respectful. We're not punishing them, Marcus emphasized. We're resetting boundaries. Already, Jake had his phone out, scrolling through contacts. The supplier from their embassy days would understand exactly what they needed, a custom solution that spoke the language of professional courtesy. Sarah's pragmatic mind ran through the logistics, safety protocols, chemical compositions, and the subtle art of deterrence. Tuesdays and Thursdays 4 to 6 will still honor that, Marcus said, drawing a line in the sand. The room fell silent. Outside, the Hendersons' house remained quiet, oblivious to the tactical discussion mere yards away. Sometimes, Marcus knew, the most effective boundaries were the ones drawn with the lightest touch. The plan came together with the precision of a military operation, every detail considered, every contingency evaluated. Jake's thumbs flew across the screen of his phone as he contacted associates from some of their prior deployments. 3-day formula confirmed, he said with a shade of professional pride in his voice. The message was clear. It was all about bespoke solutions. Marcus watched the buildup, a strategist weighing consequences. This had nothing to do with punishment. It was about restoration, pulling boundaries back into sharp focus. Friday evening, he confirmed. The Hendersons' usual time when they thought he'd be well into training sessions. Their sense of opportunity would be their moment of revelation. Sarah looked at the plan with the same critical eye she once reserved for intelligence briefings. And if they object, we talk, Marcus said simply. Dialogue, the most powerful weapon in any conflict. Mike nodded, his eyes bright with the subtlety of it. One can of foam, large, not to be missed. A message in white disappearing with time, yet leaving an indelible mark. Morning came like any other morning still. Marcus's military gear was ready for him, a testament to duty, to service. Camo shorts, black cap, dark glasses, the uniform of one ever ready. His kitchen window framed a view of quiet suburban normalcy. The Hendersons' house sat motionless, unaware of the tactical solution brewing. Jake's final message confirmed everything. The foam was ready. The plan was set. Marcus smiled, a slight knowing curve of his lips. Sometimes boundaries were best established not with walls, but with something as soft and expansive as foam. 9:15 a.m. Marcus stood in his backyard, carefully uncapping a container of foam deterrent. The pearlescent liquid looked deceptively innocent as he poured it around the pool's edge. Tiny bubbles began to form, then expand, transforming the water into a huge white cloud that rose 2 feet above the waterline. By 9:30, the pool was an impenetrable white mass that shone brilliance in the morning sun. Marcus gathered up his stuff, a pleased smile dancing on his lips. The foam would last 3 days, plenty of time to send a message to his neighbors. The Hendersons had been swimming in his pool without asking for months. The usual Saturday morning swim was brought to an abrupt end when they came out to find what looked like a giant marshmallow occupying the entire pool. Neighbors stopped by to gawk, take photos, and speculate about the bizarre white expanse. Mrs. Henderson grudgingly said to her book club, "Well, I guess we know how Marcus felt about our swimming schedule." Sarah, Marcus's friend, would refill the foam deterrent from time to time so the Hendersons couldn't use the pool when they weren't supposed to. 3 months later, Mr. Henderson came to Marcus with an olive branch, a 6-pack of craft beer, and a proposed swimming schedule. Over drinks, they worked out a compromise that suited them both. What a brilliant plot twist on revenge. What would you have done if you were Marcus? Did he take it too far, or did he handle it just right? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story of creative justice, subscribe for more incredible true stories of ingenious payback.